Emma inherited an old family portrait when her grandmother passed away. The painting depicted a stern-looking woman with piercing eyes, clutching a delicate lace shawl. Emma had heard stories about the portrait being haunted, but she dismissed them as silly tales. Nevertheless, she hung it in her dimly lit living room, intrigued by the woman's intense gaze. Strange things began to happen soon after. Whenever Emma looked at the painting, she felt an unsettling chill in the air, like a cold breath on her neck. Sometimes she could swear the woman's eyes followed her around the room. One evening, while Emma was reading, she heard a soft whisper. "Help me," it seemed to say, barely louder than a rustle of leaves. She looked around but saw nothing. Shaking off the eerie sensation, Emma returned to her book, but the whisper kept echoing in her mind. Days passed and the whispers grew more frequent. "Help me" became "free me." Emma felt compelled to learn more about the woman in the portrait. That weekend, she visited the local library, diving into old newspapers and archives. She discovered the woman was named Margaret, a distant relative who had mysteriously disappeared in the late 1800s. The articles hinted that she had been betrayed and trapped by a jealous family member. Visions of Margaret's despair filled Emma's mind. She felt a connection with the woman, a pull toward the past that was undeniable. That night, Emma decided to speak to the portrait. "What do you want from me?" she whispered, her heart racing. To her shock, the shadows in the room deepened and the air grew heavy. "Free me," an anguished voice soared through the air, freezing Emma in place. She gasped as the eyes in the portrait widened. The face seemed to soften, revealing sorrow underneath the stern expression. Emma knew she had to find a way to help. The next day, Emma returned to the library, digging deeper into Margaret's life. She learned that after her disappearance, the family had shunned her memory, burying her story under secrets and lies. Determined to uncover the truth, Emma visited the old family graveyard. As she stepped among the weathered headstones, a dark unease settled over her. She searched for Margaret's grave, convinced it was somewhere among the overgrown vines and crumbling stones. Finally, she found a neglected grave, half hidden beneath the roots of a gnarled, intensified. But this time, there was a sense of relief in the air. "Thank you," the voice breathed, and Emma felt a warmth envelop her. She closed her eyes, imagining the heavy chains of the past breaking away. The next morning, the portrait had changed. The woman no longer looked stern and tormented. Instead, her expression was one of peace. Emma felt lighter, as if a burden had been lifted. From that day forward, the whispers ceased, and a serene calm filled her home. Emma spent more time researching her family history, striving to make sure that the stories of those long gone were told and cherished. She held gatherings where family members shared tales, honoring the memory of Margaret and others who had been lost to time. And though the portrait remained a part of her home, its presence shifted from haunting to comforting. Margaret was no longer trapped, her spirit freed by understanding and love. Emma would never forget the lessons learned through those chilling whispers. Yet, as weeks turned into months, Emma noticed something curious in her dreams. Each night, a calm silhouette of Margaret appeared, guiding her to hidden corners of her family history. One night, Margaret showed her a chest in the attic that Emma had never noticed. It was filled with old letters, photographs, and keepsakes from generations past. Emma's heart raced as she dug through the chest, feeling a rush of connection to her ancestors. The letters revealed the true story of Margaret's betrayal, detailing how a jealous cousin had conspired to isolate her and take control of the family estate. With every letter she read, the shadows of the past seemed to lift, replaced by the love and struggles of those who had come before her. One particular letter struck Emma deeply. It was from Margaret herself, written just before her disappearance. In it, Margaret expressed her loneliness and the heartache of feeling unloved by her own family. She wrote how she feared being forgotten, and in her closing sentence, she pleaded for someone to remember her well. Tears streamed down Emma's face as she realized the weight of those words. She felt empowered to share Margaret's story with warmth rather than fear. Inspired, Emma organized a family gathering at her home, inviting relatives near and far. As they all gathered in the living room, the portrait of many noticed a soft warmth enveloping them. A sense of belonging filled the space, and laughter replaced the once heavy silence. Family members recounted memories they had long forgotten, sharing stories of love and loss, triumphs and tragedies. That night, Emma lay in bed feeling fulfilled. The whispers had ceased completely, replaced by a soothing calm. Just as she was drifting off to sleep, she felt a gentle touch on her shoulder. Startled, she turned, but no one was there. Yet she felt comforted, knowing Margaret was at peace at last. As weeks passed, the family often returned to share stories, their bonds growing stronger. Emma displayed the chest's contents on a dedicated shelf, naming it The Legacy of Margaret. The old letters, photographs, and keepsakes became treasures, pridefully displayed for all to see. One stormy night, however, things took a spooky turn. The winds howled outside, rattling the windows, and Emma awoke to the sound of scratching. Her heart raced as she grabbed a flashlight, terror gripping her for a moment before she steeled her nerves. Making her way to the living room, she couldn't help but notice the portrait seemed more vivid than ever. The eyes sparkled as if alive. Then she heard it again, a soft whisper. "Thank you," it said. Emma smiled slightly, feeling warmth flooding her chest. She approached the painting and said, "You're free now, Margaret. You have been remembered." At that moment, a sense of calm washed over her, the storm outside silencing. From that night on, the family portrait became a cherished reminder of love prevailing over darkness. Emma continued to research her lineage, sharing stories and creating a family history that would never again be forgotten. She felt grateful to know that Margaret was not lost to time. Instead, her spirit lived on, honoring the strength of family bonds that can cross even the most haunted of pasts. Emma realized that confronting the shadows had brought light not only to Margaret's memory, but also to her own life. In embracing the fears and finding compassion, she had transformed an eerie inheritance into a legacy of love, ensuring that the echoes of the past would be heard by generations to come. Margaret was finally at rest, and for Emma, that was the greatest gift of all.